The Bold and the Beautiful's upcoming Friday reveal unleashes a tsunami of tension as Luna Nozawa springs her most lethal trap yet, drawing Steffi Forrester Finnegan into the very jaws of death with nothing but a cold steel barrel pointed at her chest. Bound by a twisted vendetta and fueled by months of seething resentment, Luna lures Steffi to the haze, Forrester, Finnegan Beach house under the pretense of a clandestine conversation about Dylan's unsettling origami fortune, then snaps the door shut behind her so quickly that Steffi barely has time to register her daughter's terrified gasp. The moment the lock clicks into place, the idyllic seaside air sours. Luna stands in the pale morning light, pistol in hand, lips curved into a grim smile, and Steffi's heart plummets into her boots. All the empty promises Ridge made back at Forrester Creations, that Deputy Chief Bradley Baker's squad would have Luna behind bars any minute now, ring hollow in Steffi's ears as she watches the safety click off. The same woman who once kidnapped her, who manipulated her worst fears, now stands ready to end her life, proclaiming in a voice as icy as the Pacific breeze, "This ends today, Steffi." The walls of the beach house close in, the only exit barred by vengeance, and Steffi realizes with sickening clarity that she is utterly alone, that is, until a name she never thought she'd utter in the same breath as hero surfaces in her mind. Sheila Carter Sharp. Sheila, the very embodiment of chaos and betrayal in the Forrester universe, has somehow become Steffi's only hope. It all starts when Taylor Hayes, driven by a mixture of guilt and desperation, finally cracks under the weight of Sheila's insistence that she share every scrap of intelligence she has on Luna's movements. Taylor, still haunted by her past misjudgments, by the time she believed Sheila's broken promises of redemption, only to discover they were just another snare, now watches in horror as Sheila pieces together Taylor's data, the precise coordinates of the beach house, the timeline of Luna's arrival, the origin of the Ms. Sunshine origami with its grotesque sketches. Where Taylor saw only a villain, Sheila saw a chance to tip the scales back toward justice. With that information in hand, Sheila bolts from the cliffside mansion, her pulse hammering against her ribs, and races along Pacific Coast Highway in her vintage convertible, wind whipping her hair and memories of her darkest deeds racing through her mind. She knows she's forgiven only on the slimmest of threads, but if anyone can stop Luna, it's the woman who invented fear itself. Sheila's drive is a collision of contrition and survival instinct. She must prove that she's changed, that the blood on her hands can pave the way to redemption rather than further ruin. As the sun climbs higher over Malibu, Sheila merges onto the narrow road skirting the beach, the cry of gulls the only soundtrack to her urgent mission. Back at the beach house, Steffi stands frozen, the barrel of Luna's pistol alive with threat mere inches from her heart. Her arms tremble, eyes darting between Luna's unblinking gaze and the locked door, mind racing through the litany of what she's lost, her husband John Finnegan's protective embrace, her children's innocent laughter, the sanctity of the life she built. She attempts to reason with Luna, to remind her of the family she once barely knew she had, calling out, "Luna, this isn't you," but her words falter under the weight of the weapon pointed at her. Luna, breath shallow and voice tight with rage, responds with venom, "You stole everything from me, my mother, my father, my peace. I was left with nothing but these scraps of lies you call love." Each syllable digs into Steffi's chest like a knife, but her maternal instinct refuses to accept defeat. She inches backward, trying to create distance, but the room is small, the walls unyielding, and Luna's finger trembles on the trigger. Even as Steffi steels herself for the worst, her thoughts flicker to Sheila, of all people, sweeping in to save her from the abyss. Just then, the front door's lock clicks again, and Reed, Forrester's golden sands, are momentarily obscured by a figure bursting through the frame. Sheila stands there, face ashen but eyes blazing with purpose, her voice cracking like a whip as she yells, "Luna, stop this madness." Luna's finger twitches, and for a heartbeat Steffi thinks the bullet will tear her life asunder, but Sheila lunges forward with the speed of a woman possessed. She grabs Luna's gun hand, twisting the barrel skyward, and hurls herself in front of Steffi, a living shield between blade and blossom. The shot echoes in the cramped room, heavy with iron tang and heartbreak. Sheila's body jerks, and she slumps forward into Steffi's arms, blood blooming across her blouse in a dark, spreading stain that mirrors the guilt and grace colliding in her soul. Luna recoils, shock and remorse flickering in her eyes as she drops the weapon, her revenge crashing down on her like an avalanche of regret. Steffi, tears blurring her vision, presses her hand over Sheila's wound, whispering broken apologies and desperate gratitude. "Oh God, Grandma, please don't leave me." Ridge and Liam burst in seconds later, responding to frantic calls and screeching tires, only to find Steffi cradling Sheila while Hope Logan collapses to her knees, phone still in hand, sending out a silent prayer to the heavens. In the aftermath, paramedics swarm the beach house with blinking lights and urgent murmurs while Ridge stalks the perimeter, a man undone by his own blind faith. He collapses beside Steffi and Sheila, horror etched into every line of his face, as Hope and Liam hover, stunned, guilt and relief warring in their hearts. Luna sits on the floor, hands bloodied and shaking, the realization that she almost killed the woman she both hated and longed to be finally crashing over her like a wave. Steffi leans down, pressing Sheila's hand to her lips, pledging forgiveness she never dared imagine. "You saved me. You saved my life." Sheila's breath rattles, but her eyes soften, and she manages a small, rueful smile, as if to say, "I've paid the price." The camera might linger on that moment, the grandmother who made peace with her past through the most brutal of sacrifices, the daughter who survived only because her worst enemy became her guardian angel. Whether Sheila lives to tell the tale or slips away amid the roar of engines and the salt-scented breeze, her final act cements a transformation few believed possible. As the day fades into night, questions swirl among the Forrester and Carter clans. Has Sheila Carter Sharp earned her ultimate redemption by laying down her life for Steffi, the woman she once hunted? Or will she survive, scarred but alive, forced to confront the ghosts of her own creation? Does Luna's accidental mercy, her grandmother's sacrifice, signal a chance at healing for both of them, or will it be the crucible that finally shatters her fragile mind? And in the wake of this blood-soaked confrontation, what future remains for Sheila, now that her villainous edge has been dulled by sacrifice and sorrow? There is a sense that B and B may have nowhere else to take this once feared antagonist, that her story arc has run its course, once the Queen of Torment, now the Martyr of Mercy. A fitting goodbye might be her final chapter, a tragic bow, the curtain falling on a life defined by violence until its very end becomes an act of love. For Steffi, this ordeal marks a new beginning steeped in gratitude and grief. For Ridge, a crushing lesson in the limits of blind confidence. For Luna, the bitter cost of vengeance. And for all viewers, another reminder that on the bold and the beautiful, redemption often demands the highest price. Tune in Friday to discover whether Sheila's sacrifice seals her fate or signals her survival, and whether, in this tangled web of loyalty and betrayal, love can truly conquer the darkest of impulses. CBS's Friday, July 4th, 2025, tease for the bold and the beautiful hits like a thunderclap. Sheila Carter Sharp will race to Taylor Hayes with dire news that her daughter's life hangs by a thread. Steffi Forrester Finnegan will come face-to-face with the vengeful Luna Nozawa, a woman driven to extremes by years of resentment. And Ridge Forrester will stride into the Forrester Creations design office to soothe the mounting anxieties of Liam Spencer and Hope Logan. Picture Ridge entering the sleek, sunlit workspace, hands tucked into the pockets of his tailored trousers, scanning the room until he finds Liam and Hope huddled in what he calls a serious heart-to-heart. Liam's voice trembles as he blurts out the question every viewer is already asking. Is Steffi safe? I mean, you know Luna's still loose, and the police haven't caught her yet. Ridge offers the same well-worn assurances he always has. Deputy Chief Bradley, Hot Dog, Baker, and his squad have Luna's file on their desks. They're combing the coast for her, and I'm positive they'll track her down any minute now. Yet his tone wavers beneath the forced confidence, and Hope shoots him a worried glance that Ridge pretends not to see. He places a steadying hand on Liam's shoulder, insisting that the double murderer will be in custody soon, that there's nothing to fear. But inside his chest a different drumbeat pounds. Guilt that he ever underestimated the depths of Luna's fury, and dread that his empty promises might cost someone's life. Meanwhile, Steffi remains blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her. Earlier that day, she received a panicked call from Dylan, her daughter's art instructor, urging her to come to the beachside cottage at the Hayes, Forrester, Finnegan compound immediately. Dylan claimed she had urgent news about Hayes Finnegan's latest sculpture, something she discovered that Steffi needed to see in person. Trusting the message implicitly, Steffi raced down the winding coastal road, hair whipping in the ocean breeze, mind still buzzing with the day's meetings and errands. When she arrived, the sliding glass door hung slightly ajar, the soft click of sand-tracked slippers echoing in the foyer. But Dylan was nowhere to be seen. Instead, Luna Nozawa emerged from the shadows, gun in hand, eyes cold and unflinching. At that very moment, Steffi realized the comforting words Ridge had whispered at Forrester Creations were a cruel lie. Luna was not in custody, Luna was not being hunted down, and Luna was ready to settle a score Steffi didn't even know she had. Inside the dimly lit cottage, Steffi's senses screamed danger, but she fought to keep her composure as Luna leveled the pistol. The coastal surf's rhythmic roar outside contrasted violently with Steffi's racing heartbeat. She heard a faint creak from the bedroom, a tiny shuffle of movement, but her gaze remained locked on Luna, whose voice dropped to a low, merciless whisper. "Accept me as John's daughter, Steffi," Luna demanded, the words punctuated by the soft click of the magazine sliding home. "Admit that you stole everything from me, my mother, my father, my place in that family, or I will finish this." Steffi opened her mouth to speak, to reason with the betrayer she barely recognized, but all that came out was a shaking denial. "You're wrong, Luna. You are not his daughter, and even if you were, you'd never replace me. You'll never belong." Luna's lip curled in fury at the rejection, and for a moment, Steffi believed she would pull the trigger right then and there. But before the pistol barked its one fatal roar, Steffi heard the muffled gasp again. The sound of Dylan's hand rubbing against the doorframe, the faint thump of her bound wrists. The sight that followed was even more chilling. Dylan, gagged and tied to the four-poster bed, eyes wide with terror, but still trying to warn her mother, unaware that her rescue might hinge on an unlikely savior. At that critical junction, back atop the rocky bluff overlooking Malibu, Sheila Carter Sharp receives a coded message from Taylor Hayes, an urgent plea. "Sheila, Luna's set her trap, and Steffi is walking right into it at the beach house. She said she's got one more thing to do before she leaves town, and she'll go out with a big bang." Taylor's voice quavers as she recounts the chilling details. Luna has stolen the origami Ms. Sunshine with its violent sketches, has deciphered its hidden threats, and now plans to silence the woman she holds responsible for every loss. Desperation ignites in Sheila's chest, a primal roar that drowns out years of regret and retribution. She grabs her keys, slaps her hair into place, and bolts down the winding driveway. As she speeds along the Pacific Coast Highway, every memory flashes before her. The bullet she once fired at Steffi, the tears she forced from Ridge, the terror she sowed in every family gathering. Now those same hands will be used to save the woman they once harmed. If this truly is Sheila's moment of redemption, or her final act of defiance, she will not hesitate. She floors the accelerator, mental images of Steffi's frightened face and Luna's murderous intent spurring her onward. Back at the beach house, Steffi's bold refusal hangs in the air like a challenge. Luna's knuckles whiten around the pistol grip as she snarls, "If you won't accept the truth, Steffi, then you're beyond saving," and that's the moment the front door bursts open. Terror-like, Sheila storms in, voice hoarse from shouting across the waves, eyes blazing with conviction. "Luna, stop this," she screams, stepping between the shooter and her prey. Luna blinks, momentarily stunned by the apparition of the woman she most fears and most reveres. She raises the gun again, and for a heartbeat the universe contracts to the shape of a single bullet's flight path. But Sheila, faster than a striking serpent, lunges forward, knocking the pistol upward. Gunsmoke spitting into the chandelier's crystals and throws herself in front of Steffi. The shot rings through the cottage like a judgment bell. Sheila's body jerks, and she collapses at Steffi's feet, crimson blooming across her blouse like a dark flower. Steffi drops to her knees, pain and horror warring in her expression as she cradles Sheila's head in her lap. "Grandma, oh my God," she whispers, eyes brimming with tears. As emergency sirens wail in the distance, Ridge and Liam skid to a stop outside, disembarking from Ridge's vintage convertible to charge up the sandy path. Hope follows, phone clutched to her ear as she dials 911 in trembling bursts. Inside, Steffi presses her hands against Sheila's wound, applying pressure, murmuring frantic reassurances no one deserves to hear. Luna, now weaponless and shaking, stares at the fallen matriarch, her mother's mother, and finally comprehends the full scope of her own madness. She falls to her knees beside Steffi, hands clasped together in a gesture of broken remorse, words failing her. Outside, Ridge bursts through the open French doors, eyes locked on the bloody tableau. He covers his mouth with one hand, rage and guilt churning in his visage as Liam kneels to aid Steffi. Hope hovers behind, tears streaking down her cheeks, phone forgotten at her side. Taylor arrives seconds later, breathless, and rushes to Sheila's side, cradling her head, begging for a pulse. The paramedics arrive in a flurry of coats and equipment, but the moment is frozen in time, Steffi clutching Sheila like a lifeline, Luna engulfed by regret, Ridge bowing his head in defeat, Taylor weeping at the impossible choice she made by sharing Luna's secrets. In the aftermath of that one gunshot, and viewers are left reeling. Has Sheila Carter Sharp truly earned redemption by saving Steffi at the cost of her own blood? Will she survive the night, broken and scarred but alive, to forge a new place in the Forrester-Finnegan lineage? Or will her final act of sacrifice seal her tragic fate, leaving the matriarchal line forever altered by her fall? Will Luna's remorse blossom into genuine contrition, or will this be the moment she snaps entirely, consumed by guilt and self-hatred? And what of Ridge's hollow assurances at Forrester Creations? How will they haunt him now that his daughter's life was nearly lost while he stood far away, preaching false confidence to Hope and Liam? and B's Friday episode promises no easy resolutions, only the raw, unvarnished drama of families torn apart and brought back together in blood and tears. Tune in this Friday, July 4th, to witness whether Sheila's gambit leads to salvation or tragedy, whether Steffi emerges from this nightmare unbroken, and whether love can truly conquer the darkest impulses of revenge. On the bold and the beautiful, redemption demands the highest price, and this Friday, that price may be life itself.